The gun pressed cold against Zara's temple, but her hands didn't shake. She stood in Seung-ho's penthouse, surrounded by armed men who'd come to finish what they'd started, destroying Lim Seung-ho's empire completely. The man she'd quietly loved for 3 months, the broken Mafia boss who didn't know she was actually Zara Mitchell Townsend, heiress to a $2.3 billion tech fortune, stood bleeding from a knife wound, his eyes blazing with something between rage and desperation. "You should have stayed in the shadows where you belong, Janitor," the rival boss sneered, cocking the hammer. Seung-ho's voice cut through the room like shattered glass. "Touch her, and I'll burn your entire organization to ash with my last breath." But Zara smiled. A small, dangerous smile that made everyone pause, because they were about to discover that the quiet black woman who'd cleaned Seung-ho's office for months, who'd witnessed his downfall from powerful kingpin to desperate survivor, wasn't defenseless at all. She was about to remind them all that power doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it mops floors and waits for exactly the right moment to change everything. "Actually," Zara said softly, her voice suddenly carrying an authority that made armed killers hesitate, "I think we need to have a different conversation." Zara Mitchell pushed her cleaning cart through the marble lobby of the Apex Tower at 11 p.m., her reflection ghosting across the polished floors she'd just finished mopping. The building housed some of Manhattan's most powerful businesses, legitimate ones on floors 1 through 30, and on the 31st floor, in the penthouse office, something else entirely. She'd been working as a night janitor for 3 months now, invisible in her grey uniform, her natural hair pulled back in a practical bun, her rich brown skin glistening slightly from the physical work. Nobody looked twice at the cleaning lady. That was exactly why she'd chosen this life. 6 months ago, she'd been Zara Mitchell Townsend, set to inherit her father's tech empire, photographed at galas, pursued by ambitious men who saw dollar signs instead of a woman. Then she'd discovered the truth, buried in her father's files. Mitchell Townsend Technologies had been laundering money for criminal organizations for years. Her father knew. Her uncles knew. They'd built their billions on blood money. The day she was supposed to announce her engagement to Brandon Whitmore III, a man her father had chosen, a man who'd probably known about the corruption all along, Zara had walked away from everything. She'd emptied her personal account, a modest $50,000 that was hers alone, and disappeared into the city's working-class anonymity. Now she cleaned offices and survived on $18 an hour, and she'd never felt more free. The elevator doors opened on the 31st floor, and Zara wheeled her cart into the reception area. Lim Seung-ho's territory. Everyone in the building knew what he was, even if no one said it aloud. The Korean Mafia boss who controlled half of Manhattan's underground economy, who ruled from behind legitimate business fronts, who moved through the city like a beautiful predator. Zara had seen him dozens of times over the past months, always impeccably dressed, always surrounded by dangerous men who moved like trained soldiers. He'd never looked at her directly. She was part of the furniture, invisible. Tonight felt different. The usual guards weren't at their posts. The reception area, normally pristine, showed signs of hasty departure. Papers scattered, a chair overturned, coffee spilled and dried on the expensive carpet. Zara's instincts, honed by years of navigating her family's treacherous business world, screamed warning. She should turn around, get back in the elevator, pretend she'd never seen this. Instead, she moved quietly toward the main office, her heart pounding. The door stood ajar. Through the gap, she could see Seung-ho standing at the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Manhattan skyline, his usually perfect posture slightly bent, one hand pressed against the glass. He'd removed his jacket. His white shirt was rumpled, sleeves rolled up, revealing surprisingly muscular forearms marked with subtle tattoos. He looked like a man staring at the ruins of his kingdom. "I know you're there," he said without turning, his voice deep and slightly accented, carrying notes of exhaustion she'd never heard before. "Come in or leave, I don't care anymore." Zara pushed the door open slowly. "I'm just here to clean, Mr. Lim. I can come back." "No." He turned then, and Zara's breath caught despite herself. She'd always known Lim Seung-ho was handsome, sharp cheekbones, intense dark eyes, perfectly styled black hair. But tonight, with his carefully maintained facade cracking, he was devastating. His eyes held something raw and real, a vulnerability that made him more attractive than any amount of power ever could. "Everyone else has already abandoned this sinking ship," he said, his gaze finally focusing on her, really seeing her for the first time. His eyes traveled over her face with startling intensity, as if he were memorizing her features. Kim Tae-won, My right hand for 10 years, sold me out to the Zhao family. They took everything. My shipments, my territories, my accounts. Even my own men are questioning whether to stay loyal to a boss who got outmaneuvered so completely. Zara stood frozen, her hands gripping the cleaning cart. She shouldn't be hearing this. She shouldn't be standing here while a dangerous man confessed his downfall to someone he considered so beneath his notice that she didn't even register as a security risk. But something in his face, in the way his jaw tightened against emotion, made her stay. "I'm sorry," she said quietly, and meant it. Xiong-ho laughed, a bitter sound. "The janitor is sorry for me. That's how far I've fallen." He walked closer, and Zara caught the scent of expensive cologne mixed with something sharper, blood. She noticed then the dark stain seeping through his shirt near his ribs. "You're hurt," she said, instinct overriding caution. "One of Zhao's men got close before I killed him. It's nothing." "It's not nothing. You need medical attention. I can't go to a hospital. They'll be watching." He swayed slightly, catching himself against his desk. "And apparently, I can't trust my own doctor anymore either." Zara made a decision that would change everything. She moved forward, setting down her spray bottle and pulling out her phone. "I have first aid training. Real training, not just a weekend course. Let me at least clean and bind it properly." Xiong-ho's eyes narrowed. Why would a janitor have advanced first aid training? Her mind raced. "I volunteered at a clinic in my neighborhood. They taught us because gunshot and knife wounds are common there." It wasn't entirely a lie. She had volunteered back when she'd thought charity work would look good for her society image. He studied her for a long moment, and Zara felt the weight of his intelligence, the dangerous mind that had built an empire now turning its full attention on her. She kept her expression neutral, meeting his gaze with the kind of steady calm that came from years of boardroom negotiations with men who'd tried to intimidate her. Something flickered in his eyes. Surprise, maybe, or interest. "What's your name?" he asked. "Zara. Zara Mitchell." "Well, Zara Mitchell," Xiong-ho said, unbuttoning his shirt with steady hands despite his injury. "Let's see if you're as capable as you seem." As his shirt fell open, revealing his muscular chest, the subtle tattoos marking his skin, and the ugly knife wound bleeding through an improvised bandage, Zara stepped closer, with professional efficiency. She'd treated worse during her volunteer work, but her hands trembled slightly as she touched his skin for the first time, and from the way his breath caught, she knew he'd noticed. The powerful Mafia boss and the invisible janitor stood together in the empty office, neither yet understanding that this moment, her choosing to stay, him allowing her to help, had just rewritten both their destinies. 3 days later, Zara arrived for her shift to find 2 of Xiong-ho's remaining men waiting by the service elevator. Her heart jumped, but she kept her expression neutral. "Mr. Lim wants to see you," the taller one said, "before you start your rounds." She'd half expected this, either gratitude or suspicion. In Xiong-ho's world, kindness was rare enough to warrant investigation. They escorted her to the penthouse, where she found Xiong-ho behind his desk, looking significantly better than 3 nights ago. His shirt was crisp white again, his hair perfectly styled, but his eyes still carried that shadow of recent devastation. "Sit," he commanded, gesturing to the chair across from him. Zara sat, keeping her back straight, her hands folded in her lap, the posture of someone who knew how to be interviewed, not intimidated. "I had you investigated," Xiong-ho said bluntly. "Zara Mitchell, 28, born in Newark, moved to New York 2 years ago. Works 3 jobs. Janitor here, weekend shift at a diner in Brooklyn, occasional catering gigs. Lives alone in a studio apartment in Queens. No criminal record, no family connections I could find. No social media presence." He paused. "You're remarkably invisible." "Some of us prefer it that way," Zara said carefully. "Yes." His gaze sharpened. "But most people who want to be invisible are running from something, or hiding something. Maybe I just want to be left alone. Or maybe you're exactly what you appear to be. A woman working hard to survive in an expensive city." He leaned back. "Your wound care was excellent, by the way. Professional quality. My regular doctor confirmed you probably saved me from serious infection. I'm glad you're better. I'm offering you a different job," Xiong-ho said abruptly. "I need someone I can trust in my immediate environment. Someone who doesn't have connections to my organization. Someone who wouldn't be suspected. I need a personal assistant. The pay is $3,000 a week. Cash, plus you'd live here in the building. There's a small apartment on the 30th floor." Zara's mind raced. This was dangerous. Getting closer to Xiong-ho meant greater risk of her real identity being discovered, but it also meant steady income, an escape from her exhausting triple-job existence, and something else she didn't want to examine too closely. More time near the man who'd occupied her thoughts for 3 days straight. "What exactly would I be assisting with?" she asked. "Whatever I need. Organizing my schedule, managing my personal affairs, being present at meetings. You'd essentially be my eyes and ears in situations where I need someone unexpected." His lips curved slightly. "No one would suspect the former janitor of being important to me." "You mean you need someone expendable," Zara said flatly. "Someone the Zhao family wouldn't bother targeting." Seung-ho's expression turned approving. "Smart. Yes, that's part of it. But I'm also offering you a way out of poverty, Zara. 3,000 a week is more than you make in a month at all 3 jobs combined." He was right. It was an offer she couldn't logically refuse, but every instinct warned her that accepting would complicate everything. "I'll need to think about it," she said. "You have until tomorrow night." He stood, signaling the meeting was over, but paused as she reached the door. "Zara, the way you handled yourself when you found me bleeding, no fear, no hesitation, just competence, that's rare. Whatever you're running from, whatever you're hiding, I don't care. I need people around me who don't fall apart in crisis." Their eyes met, and Zara felt something electric pass between them. Recognition, maybe. One survivor acknowledging another. "I'll give you my answer tomorrow," she promised. That night, alone in her tiny studio apartment, Zara stared at her reflection. She'd left her old life to escape corruption and control. Now she was considering working directly for a criminal, getting close to the very world she'd tried to leave behind. But Seung-ho's organization, from what she'd observed, didn't deal in the same evil her father had enabled. His empire controlled gambling, protection services, and import-export operations that skirted legality, but didn't traffic in human misery. He had a code, harsh but consistent. And more than that, something about him called to her. The intelligence in his eyes, the loneliness she recognized, the way he'd looked at her like she was a person, not a servant. She accepted the job the next evening. Within a week, Zara had moved into the spare apartment and begun learning the intricate details of Seung-ho's crumbling empire. She sat in on meetings with his remaining lieutenants, observed negotiations with business partners, and slowly began to understand the elegant, ruthless mind behind the man. Seung-ho treated her with careful professionalism, but she caught him watching her sometimes, when she efficiently reorganized his chaotic filing system, when she smoothly deflected a hostile supplier's demands, when she made insightful comments about his strategic options. "Where did you really learn to think like this?" he asked one night, after she'd suggested a restructuring plan that would protect his most valuable assets while appearing to surrender territory. "Books," Zara said, the lie smooth on her tongue. "I read a lot. Business strategy, game theory, negotiation tactics. Just because someone cleans floors doesn't mean they're not intelligent." "No," Seung-ho agreed softly. "It doesn't. I'm learning that." 2 weeks into her new role, everything shifted. They were in his office late, reviewing financial documents, when Seung-ho suddenly stood and walked to the window, tension radiating from his shoulders. "Kim Tae-won is meeting with the Zhao family again tomorrow. They're planning something." "How do you know?" Zara asked. "I still have one person deep in Taiwan's organization, but I can't act without proof of what they're planning." He turned to face her, his expression conflicted. "I need someone to attend a meeting at the Golden Phoenix restaurant, someone who could listen and observe without being noticed." "You want me to spy?" Zara said. "I want you to have dinner at a public restaurant where a meeting will be happening 3 tables away. If you happen to overhear something useful, that's fortunate coincidence." Zara stood, moving closer to him. "And if I'm recognized as your employee, you won't be. You'll be just another woman having dinner alone." His jaw tightened. "I won't order you to do this, Zara. It's dangerous. But I'm asking." Something in his voice, the vulnerability beneath the request, the way he said her name like it mattered, made her decision. "I'll do it," she said. "But I need proper clothes. What I have won't fit the restaurant's dress code." Seung-ho's eyes traveled over her, and for the first time she saw heat flicker in their depths. "I'll have something sent up. Zara, thank you." "Don't thank me yet," she said. "I might not learn anything useful." "You will." He moved closer, close enough that she could feel his body heat, see the flecks of gold in his dark eyes. "You're the most capable person I've met in years. I'm starting to think finding you was the best luck I've had since this nightmare began." His hand rose, hesitated, then gently touched her cheek. just a brief brush of his fingertips against her skin, but it sent electricity racing through her entire body. Then he stepped back, professional distance sliding back into place. "The dress will arrive by 8 tomorrow. The reservation is at 9. Zara nodded, not trusting her voice, and left the office with her heart pounding and her skin still tingling where he'd touched her. She was falling for him. A Korean Mafia boss who didn't know she was really an heiress in hiding. A dangerous man whose world was collapsing around him. This was going to end badly. She knew it with certainty, but she couldn't seem to stop herself from walking deeper into the fire. The dress Seung-ho sent was perfect. A deep emerald silk that complemented her brown skin beautifully. Elegant but not flashy, expensive but not ostentatious. Zara stared at herself in the mirror of her small apartment, barely recognizing the woman looking back. She'd let her natural hair down, the thick curls falling past her shoulders in a style she hadn't worn since leaving her old life. With minimal makeup highlighting her features, she looked like someone who belonged in Manhattan's upscale restaurants. She looked like Zara Mitchell Townsend again, and it terrified her. A knock on her door made her jump. When she opened it, Seung-ho stood there, and his expression as he took her in made her breath catch. "I came to drive you," he said, his voice slightly rougher than usual. "You look stunning." "Thank you." Zara grabbed the small clutch purse he'd provided, containing a phone, cash, and a panic button that would alert his security. "I'm ready." In the car, Seung-ho briefed her on what to listen for. Any mention of shipping dates, warehouse locations, or planned attacks. His driver navigated Manhattan traffic while Seung-ho kept glancing at her, something conflicted in his expression. "What?" Zara finally asked. "I shouldn't have asked you to do this," he said. "If something goes wrong, if they recognize you're connected to me, they won't. I'm good at blending in." She met his eyes. "And I want to help you, Seung-ho. You've given me opportunities I didn't have before. Let me repay that." His hand covered hers on the seat between them, warm and strong. "This is more than repayment. You don't owe me anything, Zara. You could have walked away that first night and left me bleeding. You chose to stay." "So did you," she said softly. "You chose to trust me." The moment stretched between them, charged with everything they weren't saying. Then the car stopped outside the Golden Phoenix, and reality reasserted itself. "Be careful," Seung-ho said, releasing her hand reluctantly. "And Zara, if anything feels wrong, hit that panic button immediately. I'll have men 2 blocks away." She nodded and exited the car, walking into the restaurant with the confident grace of someone accustomed to fine dining. The maitre d' seated her at a table for one, perfectly positioned to overhear the larger table, where Kim Tae-won and 3 Chinese men in expensive suits were already seated. Zara ordered wine and an appetizer, settling in with a book as if she were simply a woman enjoying a solo dinner, but every sense was focused on the conversation 3 tables away. For 20 minutes, they discussed boring logistics, shipping schedules, warehouse inspections, nothing useful. Then Kim Tae-won's voice dropped lower, and Zara had to strain to hear. "The final shipment arrives Thursday at Pier 12. Once we move it through Seung-ho's old channels, he'll have no proof we're the ones who stole his supply lines. He'll look weak, incompetent. His own people will turn on him within a month." One of the Chinese men laughed. "And then you'll take over his territory officially with our backing." "Brilliant strategy, Tae-won. Seung-ho trained you well." "He taught me everything except how to recognize when a subordinate outgrows him," Tae-won replied coldly. Zara's stomach tightened. This wasn't just about stolen territory. It was a complete coup designed to destroy Seung-ho's reputation and legitimacy. Thursday gave them 3 days to intercept the shipment and prove Taiwan's treachery. She was about to signal for her check when one of the Chinese men's phones rang. He answered, listened, and his expression changed to alarm. "We have a problem," he said in Mandarin, a language Zara happened to speak fluently thanks to her elite education, though she gave no sign of understanding. "Our informant says Seung-ho has someone here tonight. Someone watching us." Zara's heart stopped. She kept her expression neutral, her eyes on her book, but her hand moved subtly toward her clutch and the panic button inside. "Where?" Tae-won demanded, also in Mandarin. "He doesn't know, but we should assume we're being monitored." The men stood abruptly, abandoning their dinner. Tae-won's gaze swept the restaurant and stopped on Zara. She felt his stare like a physical touch. Her training from years of high-stakes business negotiations kicked in, and she looked up from her book with mild annoyance at the disruption, making brief eye contact before returning to her reading, with the disinterest of someone interrupted. It saved her. Tae-won's gaze moved on, dismissing the black woman dining alone as irrelevant. But as they left the restaurant, one of the Chinese men made a phone call speaking too quickly for Zara to catch every word. What she did hear made her blood run cold. Investigating everyone who was here tonight. Can't afford any leaks. Zara waited 5 agonizing minutes, finished her wine with steady hands, then paid her check and walked calmly out of the restaurant. The moment she hit the street, a black car pulled up. Not Sung-ho's usual vehicle, but one of his security team's SUVs. The door opened and Sung-ho himself pulled her inside. "Go," he ordered the driver. "Random route. Watch for tails." As the car sped into traffic, Seung-ho turned to Zara, his hands framing her face. "Are you all right? Did they suspect anything?" "I'm fine," Zara assured him, her heart still racing but not entirely from fear. His hands on her face, the fierce protectiveness in his eyes, the way he'd pulled her into the car like she was something precious, all made her pulse pound for different reasons. "And I got what you need. Thursday night, Pier 12, final shipment through your old channels." "Thursday." Sung-ho's expression turned calculating. "That gives us time." But he didn't release her face, his thumbs brushing her cheekbones. "You spoke Mandarin. When they switched languages, you understood." Zara froze. She'd been so focused on gathering information that she'd forgotten to hide her reaction to the Mandarin conversation. "I thought learned some basics from a former roommate," she stammered. "You understood every word," Sung-ho said, his voice soft but certain. "Your expression changed at exact moments matching what they said. And just now you told me about Thursday without me telling you what language they were speaking." His eyes searched hers. "Who are you really, Zara Mitchell?" The car fell silent, except for the sound of Manhattan traffic outside. Zara's mind raced through possible explanations, lies, deflections, but looking into Sung-ho's eyes, eyes that had begun to trust her, eyes that held the first real connection she'd felt in months, the lies wouldn't come. "I can't tell you," she whispered. "Not because I don't want to, but because if you knew everything would change, you'd see me differently, I would what?" He moved closer, his face inches from hers. "I'd realize you're not who you pretend to be. I already know that, Zara. You move like someone accustomed to power. You think like someone trained in strategy. Your wound care was military-grade medical training. You speak Mandarin fluently. And you wear a $15,000 dress like it's comfortable, because you're used to expensive clothes." Zara's eyes widened. She'd thought the dress was nice, but not outrageous. She'd lost her instinct for what expensive really meant. Sung-ho smiled slightly. "Whatever you're running from, whatever you're hiding, I don't care. All I care about is this." He kissed her. It wasn't gentle. It was fierce and claiming, fueled by weeks of tension and tonight's danger, and the truth that they were both wearing masks, both hiding from their real selves. Zara kissed him back, just as desperately, her hands fisting in his perfectly pressed shirt, all her careful control shattering. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Sung-ho pressed his forehead to hers. "I don't care about your secrets," he said roughly. "I care that you stayed, that you risked yourself for me tonight, that when you look at me, you don't see a monster or a useful weapon, you see me." "I see you," Zara whispered. "I've seen you from the beginning, Sung-ho." His arms wrapped around her, pulling her close, and they stayed that way as the car drove through Manhattan's glittering streets, two people hiding from their true selves, finding truth in each other's lies. But neither of them noticed the second car that had picked up their tail 3 blocks ago, following at a careful distance. The next morning, everything fell apart. Zara woke to pounding on her apartment door and Sung-ho's voice, tight with fury. "Open, now!" She stumbled to the door in sleep clothes, and he pushed inside, holding his phone with a news article displayed. The headline made her heart stop. "Mitchell Townsend heiress missing for 6 months. Family offers $1 million reward." Below it was her photograph. Not the current Zara with natural hair and minimal makeup, but the old Zara from a society gala, polished and perfect, every inch the billionaire's daughter. "Is this you?" Sung-ho's voice was dangerously quiet. Zara's throat closed. She wanted to lie, to deny, to do anything but watch his expression shudder as the truth settled in. "Yes," she whispered. "Zara Mitchell Townsend." He laughed bitterly. "Should have investigated your full name. Mitchell Townsend Technologies. Your family is worth over $2 billion, and you've been pretending to be a janitor, working for me, risking yourself for $3,000 a week when you could buy my entire organization with your trust fund? It's not like that. Then what is it like?" He stepped closer, and she saw betrayal in his eyes more than anger. What game are you playing? Did your family send you to infiltrate my organization? To gather evidence? No, Zara grabbed his arm. I left them. 6 months ago, I discovered my father's company was laundering money for criminal organizations, not just yours, worse ones. Human trafficking, weapons dealing, things that made me sick. They wanted me to marry into another corrupt family, to smile and play along. So I ran. You ran into poverty? Into my world? Shung Ho shook his head. You expect me to believe a spoiled heiress chose to clean toilets and live in a studio apartment? I expect you to believe me, because it's the truth. Her voice rose. I gave up everything because I couldn't stomach what my family had become. I wanted to be invisible, to be no one important, to live a real life where people saw me instead of dollar signs. And yes, I took the janitor job, and yes, I stayed when you offered me more because... She stopped, the words catching. Because why? Seung Ho demanded. Because you saw me, Zara said, her voice breaking. Not my name or my money or my usefulness. You looked at me like I was a person worth knowing. You trusted me with your vulnerability, and I started falling for you, even though I knew it was impossible, even though I knew my secrets would destroy everything eventually. Seung Ho stared at her, his expression warring between belief and suspicion. How do I know this isn't manipulation? That you're not using me for some agenda? You don't, Zara said flatly. You'll have to choose whether to trust me, the same way I chose to trust you, the same way I chose to risk my life last night to help you. They stood in tense silence, the morning sun streaming through her small window, illuminating the gap that had opened between them. Then Seung Ho's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and his expression changed to alarm. We need to go, now. What's wrong? That article. Your family's publicizing your disappearance, offering $1 million reward. Someone recognized you last night at the restaurant. The Zhao family knows who you are, and they just figured out that you're worth more to them as a hostage than I am as a dead enemy. Cold fear washed through Zara. They're coming for me. They're already here. Seung Ho grabbed her hand, pulling her toward the door. Get dressed, 30 seconds. We're leaving through the service entrance. Zara threw on clothes with shaking hands, grabbed her emergency bag, a habit from her old life that she'd never broken, and followed Seung Ho into the hallway. They'd made it to the stairwell when they heard the elevator ding. Too late, Seung Ho breathed. He shoved Zara behind him, drawing a gun from his waistband. Stay close. When I say run, you run. Don't look back. 5 men emerged from the elevator, 4 Chinese enforcers and Kim Tae-won himself. They all had weapons drawn. Seung Ho, Tae-won said pleasantly, and the mystery woman from last night. Imagine our surprise when facial recognition software identified her. Zara Mitchell Townsend. Now that's a valuable discovery. She has nothing to do with our conflict, Seung Ho said coldly. She has everything to do with it now. The Zhao family would pay handsomely for the Mitchell Townsend heiress, and her family's reward money is just a bonus. Tae-won smiled. Drop the gun, Seung Ho. You're outnumbered and outmaneuvered. Again. Zara felt Seung Ho's muscles tense, calculating odds. She knew what he was planning, a desperate play to give her time to escape, probably sacrificing himself in the process. She couldn't let that happen. Wait, Zara said, stepping out from behind Seung Ho, ignoring his sharp intake of breath. She looked directly at Tae-won. So you want money? I can offer you more than the Zhao family ever could. Mitchell Townsend Technologies has connections in every major market in the world. I have access to information, resources, shipping channels that would make your organization untouchable. Zara, stop, Seung Ho started. You think you've won by betraying Seung Ho, she continued, her voice taking on the command she'd learned in boardrooms filled with predatory men. But you're still just a lieutenant in someone else's organization. Help me and Seung Ho instead, and I can make you a legitimate businessman with criminal enterprises on the side, so profitable you'll never have to take orders again. Tae-won's eyes narrowed with interest. And why would you do that? Because I want my life back, Zara said, the lie smooth and confident. Not the society princess version. I'm done with that. But I want resources, power, freedom, and I want Seung Ho alive. She glanced at Seung Ho, putting all her feeling into that look. Help us and we all win. Kill us and you get a one-time payment that won't change your position in the hierarchy. The stairwell fell silent. Tae-won studied her, and Zara could see him calculating, weighing options. Then he laughed. Nice try, princess. But I've already made my deal with the Zhao family. And you're a liar wearing different costumes, trying to manipulate everyone around you. I don't trust spoiled rich girls playing dress-up in the real world. He raised his gun toward Zara. Seung Ho moved to shield her. The enforcers tensed, and then the building's fire alarm erupted in deafening sound, strobe lights flashing, and smoke began billowing through the vents. Not real smoke, Zara realized, but theatrical fog from the building's fire suppression system that someone had triggered. In the chaos and confusion, Seung-ho grabbed Zara and shoved through the fire door onto the stairs, bullets ricocheting off concrete as they ran. Down, 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 30 flights, while alarms screamed and Zara's lungs burned. They burst out into the lobby where confused residents were evacuating. Seung-ho pulled Zara into the crowd, and they emerged onto the street where one of his security vehicles was already waiting. "How did you—" Zara gasped as they sped away. "I texted my security chief before we left your apartment, told him if I didn't check in within 10 minutes, trigger the building's emergency systems." Seung-ho checked behind them for pursuit. "We bought ourselves time, but not much. They'll track us. Where are we going?" "Somewhere safe while I figure this out." He finally looked at her fully, and his expression was complex. Anger, confusion, something that might have been hurt. "You offered them everything. Access to your family's empire. Were you serious?" "I was trying to keep you alive," Zara said quietly. "I'd offer them anything if it meant you'd survive. Even going back to the life you ran from. Even that." She met his eyes. "Because somewhere along the way, this stopped being about hiding from my past and started being about building a future. With you if you'll still have me after learning the truth." Seung-ho's jaw tightened, but he didn't answer, turning back to watch the road. And Zara realized with a sinking feeling that while she'd confessed her truth, she might have lost him anyway. Not to bullets or betrayal, but to the unbridgeable gap between a mafia boss and an heiress who'd lied about everything from the moment they met. The safe house was a small apartment in Queens, nondescript and far from Manhattan's towers. Seung-ho paced while making rapid calls in Korean, reorganizing his remaining forces, setting plans in motion. Zara sat quietly, her emergency bag beside her, feeling the weight of everything crashing down. After an hour, Seung-ho ended his last call and turned to her. "Thursday's shipment at Pier 12. That's still our best chance. If we intercept it and prove Taewon stole from me using inside information, I can leverage that against the Zhao family. They won't protect a lieutenant who's become a liability. And if that doesn't work, then we disappear. I have contingency funds, safe identities prepared. We run." His eyes found hers. "Both of us, if you want. You'd give up your empire? Your position? I've already lost most of it." Seung-ho sat beside her on the worn couch. "These past months, watching everything I built crumble, I've learned something. Power without purpose is empty. Territory without people who matter is just real estate." He reached for her hand carefully, like she might pull away. "I spent 10 years building an empire, and I was so lonely inside it that I didn't even realize I was dying slowly. Then a janitor stayed to help when everyone else abandoned me, and suddenly I remembered what it felt like to connect with another human being." "I'm sorry I lied," Zara whispered. "Are you sorry you came into my life?" he asked. "No, never that." "Then we're even. I'm a criminal, Zara. I've done things that would horrify you. Built my empire on violence and fear. You're a billionaire's daughter who could have any life she wanted. We shouldn't work." His thumb traced circles on her palm. "But somehow we do." "What happens after Thursday?" Zara asked. "I don't know. But I know this. I'm not letting you go. Not to the Zhao family, not back to your father's world, not anywhere unless you choose to leave." His free hand cupped her face. "You asked me to trust you. I'm choosing to trust you, Zara. Whoever you are, whatever name you use, whichever world you belong to, I trust that you're mine and I'm yours." Zara's eyes filled with tears. "You really mean that? You risked everything for me. Multiple times. That's not manipulation or agenda, that's—" He seemed to struggle with the word. "That's love, isn't it?" "Yes," Zara breathed. "I love you. I didn't mean to, and I know it's complicated, but—" Seung-ho kissed her, silencing her words. This time it was tender, reverent, the kiss of a man who'd found something precious in the ruins of his life. When they parted, he rested his forehead against hers. "I love you too," he said in Korean, then in English. "My unexpected gift. My cleaning lady who turned out to be a princess, who turned out to be so much more than either identity." They held each other as afternoon turned to evening, both knowing that Thursday would determine everything, whether they'd have a future together or whether the forces arrayed against them would tear them apart. Wednesday passed in tense preparation. Seung-ho coordinated with his remaining loyal men, fewer than Zara had expected, but fiercely dedicated. She used her knowledge of business logistics to help plan the interception, and Seung-ho watched her with something like wonder as she casually displayed the strategic mind she'd been hiding. "You really were trained for this," he murmured as she outlined a plan to document the shipment transfer without alerting Taewon's people. "I spent 15 years learning to think 3 moves ahead," Zara admitted. "Business strategy, hostile takeovers, negotiation tactics. I was being groomed to take over a tech empire. Those skills translate surprisingly well to organized crime." "You'd have been terrifying in my world," Seung-ho said, half admiring, half amused. "I'm in your world now," Zara pointed out. "And I am terrifying." He laughed, genuinely laughed, and pulled her close. "Yes, you are. Taewon has no idea what's coming for him." Thursday night arrived too quickly. Zara insisted on coming to the pier despite Seung-ho's protests. "You need someone who can testify to what they see," she argued. "Someone with credibility beyond your organization. I'm Zara Mitchell-Townsend. If I witness and document your lieutenant's theft, that's evidence even the Zhao family can't dismiss. It's dangerous. Everything about us is dangerous." She checked the gun he'd taught her to use over the past 2 days. "I'm not staying behind while you risk your life." They arrived at Pier 12 with Seung-ho's security team. 6 men, heavily armed, strategically positioned. Zara crouched beside Seung-ho behind shipping containers, her phone ready to record, her heart pounding. At midnight, trucks arrived. Taewon emerged, directing operations with casual authority, clearly believing he'd won. The shipment was transferred, high-end electronics stolen from Seung-ho's suppliers, being rerouted through what used to be Seung-ho's distribution channels. Zara recorded everything. Faces, license plates, the moment Taewon accepted payment from a Zhao family representative. Then Seung-ho stepped out of the shadows. "Hello, Taewon," he said calmly, his remaining men flanking him, weapons raised. "Conducting business on my pier, using my channels with my merchandise, interesting choices." Taewon froze. "Seung-ho, you should be hiding." "I was. I'm done hiding." Seung-ho gestured, and his men moved forward, surrounding the area. "This entire transaction has been recorded. Miss Mitchell-Townsend has been documenting your theft. The Zhao family won't protect you when they realize you've left them liable for stolen goods with a credible witness." "Mitchell-Townsend?" The Zhao representative's expression changed. "The heiress." Zara stepped forward, holding her phone high. "That's right. And unless you want Mitchell-Townsend Technologies to use every legal avenue to destroy your legitimate business fronts, and we have connections you can't imagine, you'll cut ties with Kim Taewon immediately." She was bluffing partially. She'd cut herself off from her family's resources, but they didn't know that, and her name alone carried weight. The Zhao representative studied the situation, calculating. Then he made a gesture, and his men lowered their weapons. "Taewon is no longer under our protection. This transaction never happened." They left, abandoning Taewon to Seung-ho's mercy. Taewon drew his gun desperately, aiming at Zara. "You cost me everything." Seung-ho moved faster, his shot precise and disabling. Taewon went down, clutching his shoulder, the gun skittering away. "You cost yourself everything," Seung-ho said coldly, standing over him. "The moment you betrayed someone who trusted you like a brother, you sealed your fate." He glanced at his men. "Take him. Let the Zhao family know they can collect their traitor from the hospital. Alive, but ruined." As his men dragged Taewon away, Seung-ho turned to Zara, and his expression softened. "You were magnificent. Terrifying and magnificent." "We make a good team," Zara said, still shaking slightly from adrenaline. "The best team." He pulled her close. "This isn't over. Rebuilding will take months. But I have my proof, my credibility restored, and—" He cupped her face. "I have you if you want to stay. Where else would I go?" Zara smiled through sudden tears. "You're the first person who's ever seen all of me. Rich girl, janitor, liar, truth-teller, all the contradictions, and wanted me anyway." "You're mine," Seung-ho said fiercely. "Every version of you, every secret, every beautiful contradiction, mine to protect, mine to love. Say it." "I'm yours," Zara whispered, then stronger. "And you're mine." The powerful boss, the broken man, the person who learned to trust again. Mine. They kissed in the shadow of shipping containers, surrounded by evidence of their victory, their future uncertain, but finally theirs to build together. Years later, Zara stood in a Manhattan penthouse, not Seung-ho's old office, but their home, a legitimate one purchased with money from the tech consultancy firm she'd founded after reconciling with her family on her own terms. Mitchell Townsend Technologies had been restructured, its criminal connections severed, after Zara had provided evidence and testimony that led to her father's resignation and prosecution. She'd taken no inheritance, wanting nothing tainted by that blood money. Instead, she'd built something new, something clean. Xiong Ho's empire had evolved too. His organization now focused on legitimate imports, security services, and consulting. The criminal elements had been gradually phased out, replaced by legal ventures that used his strategic mind without the violence. It had been hard, dangerous. Some of his people had left, unable to accept the change, but others had stayed, grateful for the chance at legitimacy. "You're thinking too hard again," Xiong Ho's voice said behind her. His arms wrapped around her waist, chin resting on her shoulder. "I can see the wheels turning." "Just remembering," Zara said, leaning back against him, "the woman I was when we met, the secrets we kept, how far we've come. The janitor and the Mafia boss," Xiong Ho mused, "sounds like a bad movie plot. The heiress and the reformed criminal sounds better," Zara countered. "Or just Zara and Xiong Ho, two people who found each other when they'd both lost themselves." He turned her to face him, his eyes, still intense, still capable of making her breathless, soft with love. "You saved my life that night, you know. Not just physically. You saved me from becoming someone so consumed by power and vengeance that I'd have destroyed myself. You saved me too," Zara said, "from a life of luxury and emptiness, from being someone else's idea of who I should be." "We saved each other," Xiong Ho agreed. He kissed her forehead, then her lips, tender and thorough. "My princess who cleans, my love who sees through all my masks." "Your partner," Zara corrected. "In everything. Forever, forever," he promised. And standing in their home built on truth instead of lies, on trust instead of deception, with their hard-won future stretching ahead, they both finally understood what they'd been searching for all along. Not power, not escape, not perfection, just each other, real, flawed, and absolutely right.